And let's get going here. Let's get going here. Feels like a Monday, but it's a Tuesday. Hope you had a good Martin Luther King day off. If you were off yesterday, and many people were not. J Dog on the boards. Jack Heath. Good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning, Maine. Good morning, New England. Worldwide. Good morning, worldwide. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google. Play the Pulse of an H. Our poll question this morning, 9 to noon, weekdays live right here. Poll question this morning, J Dog, on X at the Pulse of an H. Do you think the United States should buy Greenland? Yes or no? I'm going to come back to some talking point commentary on this in a moment. Big win, as we now know, and the focus is on this weekend for the AFC Championship game, J Dog. The Patriots really getting it done. And wow, here we go. Buckle up. Cold weather moving in. And when I say cold, it is winter. By the way, Mike Cody, bottom of the 10 o'clock hour this morning live, one of our guests, and he's going to talk about the Old Farmer's Almanac is still in business, not the other guys who, I guess, stopped publication. So it's a real cold winter. It's been a real winter, J-Dog, and we're gonna be in the negative, as they say, really come Friday night. There's a big, like 30 or 40 degree temperature drop going into the end of the week. So
Chumps the Winter Carnival in Concord this weekend.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh,
and the Black Ice Pond Hockey Tournament as well at White Park.
Wow.
So, yeah, they couldn't have asked for better weather in that regard.
No, it's going to be plenty cold for pond hockey, but plenty cold, like cold. And, so, we'll keep it going. Hey, a reminder, and it's a fun reminder, go to the Pulse of an H and nominate a veteran in your life today. There's still time to get a brand new state-of-the-art furnace to stay warm and comfortable and safe for their home with installation. Our friends at Triumph Home Services and our friends about the Pulse of an H, pulseofanh.com. Honor a hero. You'll see the furnace giveaway. We're going to announce the winner on my show right here. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an H. Honor a hero. Nominate a veteran in your life today to get that furnace. Just tell a little bit about, when you go to the field there, a little bit about why you want to nominate that veteran to see them get a brand new furnace. A lot to talk about this morning. I'm going to come back to that. Anna Brown's coming up this morning, Citizens Count. There's a measure, I don't have it in front of me, but in my notes for the show this morning, there's a measure that's going to be voted on in the State House, but it's basically for property tax cap relief or property tax relief out there for towns and cities. And you heard me talk about this a week or so ago. The real problem or challenge is these school budgets keep going up and up and up. Even though enrollments are going down, they go up and up and up. And towns like Dover, New Hampshire, Durham, but Dover, where the voters put in a property a tax cap. In Dover, they put in a tax cap, meaning the city planners should know that there's a cap in place beyond which you don't raise taxes because there's a cap. That's what a tax cap is, kind of a ceiling. But in Dover, not once but twice, because of the school budget, I think they went $1.4 million beyond that tax cap. We had a listener a week or so ago when I was talking a lot about this in towns like Durham, where they just keep raising taxes. Kathy, I think her name was, a listener, very articulate, wrote a letter, but she came on the show and talked about her objection to trying to ask the city council or town council or city council in Dover's case on the school side, why are you blowing through the tax cap? But there's a measure in the State House. We're going to talk about that. But our poll question and some commentary, I just want to hit this one. And by the way, I guess, J-Dog, I didn't see the whole thing. I saw some. Big win for Indiana over the U of Miami. In the end, a pretty good game, right, J-Dog? I mean, it was pretty good right till the end.
Right till the end, it was wire to wire, which I was not expecting. I thought Indiana would run away with it, but no, they got the win, and they're not just a basketball school anymore, Jack.
Yeah. Some commentary, 603-228-2080. Also coming up today, 9:35, Mike Dennehy. Has been a while. He'll give us some expert analysis. Doug Tengden's going to weigh in this hour on the economy, and that's where I'm going next. And I'm going to try and be pretty objective and calm on this and respectful, something that I think we need more of across the board on all political debate. We'll get an update from our national contributors. The latest out of Minneapolis. You heard about that church service interrupted by anti-ICE protesters. There's a lot of unrest there still, or tensions, I guess is a way to put it. But I want to talk about the economy, and the economy. And it's pretty clear to me that you can't BS voters and families and people on the economy. They know, regardless of who's in the White House, they know if the economy is good for them or not. There's no spin zone in that. People know. They know if they have more money in their accounts at the end of the week or the month. Speaking of property taxes, a lot of them are due today in towns like Dover and some of the other ones. And some people who are paying those versus taking it out of their mortgage where it comes out in an escrow every month. Some people are writing big checks today that they probably feel they don't have or don't have. You can't BS people on the economy. And I have a theory right here in New Hampshire. All things are local. I think it's going to come down to the economy in the midterm elections, affordability and the economy. All these other issues that might be very emotional, including immigration enforcement or immigration. All these other issues are going to pale in comparison when independent voters mostly and all voters in November go to vote in the midterm elections. It's going to be about the economy and affordability. And it's very easy to take your eye off that ball. And all due respect to President Trump, I, probably more than a lot of talk show hosts, having had the honor to be a civilian to go to the U.S. Army War College a number of years ago in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, in the National Security Seminar. Our host general at the time was talking about the strategic military importance of Greenland, the Arctic Circle. I get it. But Mr. President, a year ago, you talked about the golden age of America, for Americans, the golden age. And we can debate the tariffs, and we were getting screwed over for many, many years by many countries. But the point is the golden age or the golden era for Americans. I think, in all due respect, wanting Greenland, just throwing an offer out there, but being obsessed right now in terms of, pressuring Denmark, more tariffs, NATO nations at a time where you have such tensions with NATO and Putin and over the war in Ukraine and the whole NATO alliance. And yes, we are front and center to that. We are the number one military power in the world. I get it, Mr. President, I do. But this obsession to have Greenland at all costs is really not something that people today paying property taxes, paying an electricity bill, paying groceries, paying to have an appliance fixed in their home, they don't really connect the dots the way you are on this. They're not understanding. Why are we went and got the bad guy running Venezuela, Maduro. Good operation, by the way. Bad guy. The previous administration had a $25 million bounty for his arrest. So that was a good operation. Whether or not American oil companies are going to spend billions to go harvest more oil there remains to be seen. But we don't have to be in the business of running too many countries all at once and get spread too thin when it's the economy here at home that matters. It is. And a lot of people are looking at that. Why are we so fixated on buying Greenland when, going back to about 1951, we can do anything we want there on a military installation, more radar, more subs, more bases. We have an open check when it comes to military really influence on Greenland, but do we need to own and control it? I'm not saying it would be bad if they gave it to us. Hey, here, run Greenland. But this obsession to buy Greenland at all costs right now is a little bit strange to a lot of people that are trying to pay utility bills, grocery bills, mortgages and rents that keep going up. And here in New England, we live in one of the more, I think, per capita expensive places in the country to live. This is what people want the president to focus on. This is why I think one of the main reasons Trump beat Harris handily in all the so-called swing states. And the election was over that night, even though pundits told us it would be months or weeks before we knew, is because people wanted and felt President Trump would do a better job with the economy. And I think a lot of people who may not have liked his Truth Social post or other things said, this is going to be better for me, my family, if Trump wins, because he's going to be a better steward, a better leader on the economy. Small business, pro-business, small, people, cost of things. And you can argue that, fuel prices have come down and inflation may have stabilized. See, the one thing the former administration, that would have been, in case you forgot, because I think at times they did, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and that administration, they tried to tell us the second, third, and fourth year that inflation was under control, and we all knew it was out of control because you can't BS people when it comes to their local household budget. And when they go to the grocery store and they were looking at the price of chicken and they're looking at the price of steak, they knew the inflation was not under control. And President Biden will go out and stumble and bumble and tell us it was, but we knew it wasn't. It was the worst inflation we had seen in 50 years, created by too much federal stimulus and all that, but we won't get into that. It was terrible. Now, it may have stabilized, but that's like saying a migraine headache is now a dull headache. Things are still not affordable. Things are still expensive. I mean, you're hearing stories that even retirees in Florida, Wall Street Journal article, retirees in Florida, because of the cost of living, are having a hard time retire on a fixed income of $3 or $4 grand a month. It used to be you go to Florida if you want to live in rent a spot in a mobile home park or buy a condo or a home, but because of insurances and inventory and some other stuff, but really cost of living and the economy are the number one issue that are going to go right into this fall. And you can talk about all these ancillary issues all day long, but this fall's election is going to be about the economy and affordability. And whatever candidate is talking about that, housing, affordability or lack of it, rent, utilities, electricity, groceries, everything's expensive. And how do we make it less expensive so people feel they're getting ahead? That is what the midterm election is going to be about more than Greenland. Some commentary, 603-228-2080. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. Jack Heath, J-Dog on the boards. Back in a moment.
Looking for smarter bets and straight up sports?
to Jack on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, we are back on this Tuesday morning, just about 9:23, 20 days into January. Hard to believe. Go nominate a veteran, thepulseofanh.com. Get that free furnace and installation thanks to our friends at Triumph Home Services. Pulseofanh.com. Nominate a veteran. We're going to pick the winner in a few weeks right here live on my show. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of NH. Good morning, worldwide. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google, play the Pulse of NH. A couple of other perks for being a regular listener. The great Debbie Roy, one of our sponsors and partners, AutoFair, sponsors of our state police segment, AutoFair, and on Thursdays, AutoFair Honda across the mall in New Hampshire. They got a couple of pickup trucks that they want to sell to one of our listeners. The Pulse of NH. Just call and say Jack the Pulse or Jack Radio. Call Debbie. I'll give you her number in a moment. But they have two pickup trucks, a 2020 Chevy 1500 Custom North Sky Blue Metallic, a Chevy 2020 1500 Custom North Sky Blue Metallic, 109,984 miles, but in great condition, 22,471. They also have a Honda Ridgeline 2017 at 17,705 for a Honda Ridgeline pickup truck. These are all about 20 grand. You know, a new vehicle can be closer to 60 grand. Call Debbie, 603-634-4726, 603-634-4726. Just say Jack the Pulse. You want to check out those trucks, go over and take a test ride. Great time of year for that, to have a truck. I think all year round, even in August. 603-634-4726. Coming up, Doug Tengden, World Market Advisors, in a little bit in the back half hour on the economy, as I was talking earlier about the economy, but a couple of the stories I want to touch upon this morning. Interesting article before I come back to this Property Tax Protection Act. House Republicans are voting on a Property Tax Protection Act, which I think is a great idea. The question is, will towns respect the property tax cap? Because in towns like Dover, they haven't. They've been voting above and beyond the tax cap that the voters passed, which is kind of counterintuitive, but they say it's because they need to for schools versus just learning to do less and still provide a great education. But another story I caught, I've been following this Vermont Public, and I posted this and got a lot of reaction over the weekend. Vermont Public, and there's a lot of debates up in Vermont. Ironically, some of the same debates we have here, and they have all the taxes in the world in Vermont, including a so-called progressive income tax that goes up to almost, I think it's 8.75% on your income. If you make mid-200s, that's supposedly rich in Vermont. Sales taxes, property taxes, double-digit increases. But whatever the panel is, it's just called Vermont Public. I'll source this, Vermont Public. They're talking about Burlington, Vermont. And this articulate gentleman starts off saying, for families that just dropped their kids off at University of Vermont in Burlington, where yours truly happened to go to college, and they don't go down to Church Street in downtown Burlington, Vermont, because they've heard what a mess it is with out-of-control homelessness and drug use, and people are being driven away, and business owners by the truckload of letters have been pleading with the so-called quote-unquote progressive mayor of Burlington, Vermont. Kind of funny, right? Progressive. Out-of-control homelessness is not progressive, it's regressive. But they've been pleading with her to clean up the downtown because they're closing their gift shops, their clothing shops, their bagel shops, their bars, because it's just people don't want to come down and have to walk through and deal with homelessness and that kind of out-of-control stuff, and tarps and tents and mess and all the stuff that goes with a big homeless population in the center of your downtown. So I posted on this page, and this is what got the reaction. I said, why don't these mayors, like in Burlington, call Jay Rouet in Manchester, New Hampshire, the newly reelected mayor there, and ask him, because Manchester, New Hampshire had the same problem the last several years. Homelessness was growing and growing and growing, and each year it would get so big in and around the bridges, down on the river, near the overpasses, they'd have communities of homelessness and porta potties and tents and people living outdoors in the cold winter or the warm summer months, and it's just getting out of control. And a lot of it is, unfortunately, it's just a reality, is tied to things like very complicated issues like addiction. So and homelessness for veterans has been driven down almost zero in Manchester. Jay Rouet successfully in the first year or so cleaned up the downtown by disbanding the homelessness and finding, not just telling people you can't live here and go somewhere else, but really working with the city and the healthcare officials to find people who needed addiction services or help, and not just break up the homelessness. But in Burlington, Vermont, it's a problem, and they're all sitting up there scratching their heads. Well, what do we do? Burlington's becoming not only an eyesore, but people aren't going downtown. And if you know anything about University of Vermont, no offense to Durham, New Hampshire, unlike Durham, Burlington is a bigger downtown, and UVM sits right on the hill above it. And it's a wonderful big on Lake Champlain. And when I went to college here, restaurants and bars and shops and ice cream shops, bagel shops, restaurant, everything. You could walk downtown safely at 1 a.m. and not worry about any crime or anything. And today it's the antithesis. And they're all scratching their heads. What do we do? Well, you break up the homelessness is what you do to start. And you put a bit of law and order back into your downtown. And you work with people who need the help the most, but you just can't allow the downtown to be a homeless city. Just ask Portland, Oregon, how that's going for them. Some commentary, 603-228-2080. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google. Play the Pulse of an H. Jack Heath, J-Dog on the boards. Mike Dennehy on deck on the Pulse of an New Hampshire. We'll talk about local and national stuff next.
This is the Pulse. Firm, proudly serving commercial properties from Greater Manchester to Greater Boston. Visit them online at outdoorpride.com. Now, back to Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, the Old Farmer's Almanac, still in business. Mike Cody will be joining us in the next hour. New Hampshire Magazine and New Hampshire Business Review regular business contributors on a Tuesday. And, of course, his business podcast up on our Pulse Podcast Network at the Pulse of an H. Mike Dennehy, one of our political analysts and all-stars. It's been a bit. Here we are, colder temps moving in, the great Dennehy, and talking some local and national politics. Of course, Mike Dennehy Belay Group, but big career in the past on navigating a few successful presidential primary campaign wins. Good morning, Mike. I believe Mike's there. Well, he was
Jack,
there.
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm
you're
here.
there.
I'm
You're
here,
there.
Jack.
I'm here. I'm in the field. I'm out here. Bring the helicopter down. Throw the rope.
Oh, I know. How are you? Good to hear your voice, Jack. And you know, by the way, speaking of the almanac, I thought it was hilarious. You know, there's two almanacs left: the old Farmer's Almanac and just the regular Farmer's Almanac, and they have the exact opposite weather predictions for the winter. Super funny.
I love it when they just say it's gonna be cold and snowy in New England. That's a great way to publish. Hey,
Exactly.
I don't know where you want to begin. Maybe end with the international and national stuff, but
Yeah.
State House is busy. A lot going on there. You know about it better than me. We're going to hear from Anna Brown in the next hour. Everything from death penalty to property tax is being debated, and I don't know where we can begin. But the midterms.
Well,
I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there is a lot going on in the State House. It's not a budget year, of course, so a lot of policy issues being debated. Politics is kind of slow getting out of the gate for 2026. Now, I mean, there hasn't been a lot of news about it, but I think the biggest issue, Jack, I expect you've covered a little bit already so far this year, is the fact that you've got Democrat Party Chair Ray Buckley out there saying how vulnerable Kelly Ayotte is, but they can't dig up a candidate for governor to save their lives. So, and of course, Ray Buckley is just being Ray Buckley. The fact is, Kelly Ayotte is extremely popular. She's done a good job, and they're not going to find anyone to run against her. It's not going to happen. So I think that's going to be the biggest kind of political news of the year. Is Kelly Ayotte is going to continue to do great things and not have a serious candidate or opponent.
But Mike, I was talking to someone you and I both know well, and he was reminding me that when John Lynch ran, he didn't announce till spring of that year.
Right.
So
Yeah,
let me play devil's advocate for the, or not devil's advocate,
please.
just play this out a little bit.
Yeah.
So right now, no one real. I gave some commentary earlier, and I'll make it succinct, and you can comment in a moment on this. I do understand the strategic importance of Greenland, but I think a lot of people are saying, Mr. President, in all due respect, I care more about my affordability in my home here in New Hampshire or Maine right now, having a hard time still paying energy bills.
Yeah.
The price of steak hasn't really gone down. Affordability, the economy. I understand Greenland may be important, but I think I'm more important than Greenland. And you talked about a golden era for this economy. I'm not feeling it. And I think the midterms here in New Hampshire this fall are going to be more about the economy and affordability and cost of living than anything else. And so I'm looking at this going, no one knows where that's going to be this summer. But if you're Chris Pappas, the apparent front runner in the U.S. Senate race, you got to be liking all the chaos and distraction, because he can just sit there and talk about affordability and cost of living, whether it's on your house or health insurance. And John Easton and Scott Brown are probably just trying to raise money right now. I don't know where that's at. They've been really quiet. You do have a lot of domestic tensions on things like Minneapolis and immigration enforcement. But I think by the summer and fall, it's all about the economy. And I think President Trump needs to focus on that, because he's not on the ballot, but he is, if you know what I mean.
Jack, I could never say it better than you anyway, but I 100% agree with you on every single level. Now, that being said, I may be one of the few who doesn't think that impacts Kelly Ayotte directly, because she is doing a great job for New Hampshire. She's going to lead the ticket. She won't have a serious opponent because they can't compete with both her popularity, her success, and her fundraising.
Right.
That being said, I believe you are right. I believe it's a big problem that President Trump has right now. For whatever reason, he's decided to focus internationally.
Yeah.
And yes, I agree with you. Greenland strategically is the right move, but that doesn't change the fact that people back home, they're not feeling good about this economy.
Right.
And he's got to pivot back to it. He has to, or it could lead to big problems in this midterm.
Yeah. Well, trying to tell, remember about a month ago, the president went to Pennsylvania and he spoke about the economy, and for an hour he railed against his opponents. I think it's hard to teach someone like Donald Trump how to be different or disciplined. Brad may call in, is what I'm saying. But I'm looking at this going, it's pretty apparent to me that I think one reason why President Trump won over Harris and Walz, that great governor of Minnesota, is the economy. And I think people felt that Trump's going to do better with the economy. I think Greenland might be great to talk about, and capturing Maduro was a good operation, but buying Greenland at all costs, I think people want him to the administration to focus on cost of living right here at home, rent, housing, electricity, groceries. Hey, Mike, we're going to add on, I think Brad Card, one of our other political analysts and all-stars, weighing in. Mike Dennehy, Brad, I got two for the price of one. Good morning, Brad.
Two for the price of one.
So, Brad, let me pose what Mike and I have been talking about, because I think it could have implications. Because, Mike, my point before I bring Brad on is Kelly Ayotte is sitting in a very good position, and she's done a very good job really positioning as an independent thinking governor, and not being too predictable, but being fairly popular at a time when politicians are not popular. But if a Democrat runs in the next few months that has a statewide moderate focus, and Chris Pappas does really well in the midterms, hypothetically, against Johnny Sununu or Scott Brown, whoever the nominee is in the Senate race, because of the economy, who knows what could happen. So, Brad, my point is, Greenland, I understand the strategic importance, but explain to me why the president is so hell-bent, even with NATO nations, to acquire Greenland at a time when a lot of people want the golden era to be right at home in their own household, paying bills and grocery bills and electricity bills and rents and mortgages.
Well, the first thing I'm going to say, Jack, is that if Democrats had their way, they would not have passed the One Big Beautiful Bill. They would not have passed the extension of the tax cuts, and they would be seeing a tax increase right now. So that's first and foremost. If Democrats were in control, you'd be having a tax increase right now. As far as Greenland goes, I don't get it. It's stupid. It's not only bad internationally for our allies. It's bad politics right now. It's an 80-20 issue, an 85-15 issue right now for the American people. We don't want Greenland. We have the right to do whatever we want to do in Greenland per a 1951 agreement, and there's no reason on earth that the president should be playing this game with Greenland. And it's dividing our base. It's dividing members of Congress. It's certainly hurting our allies, and I don't understand it. It's just dumb politics.
But Brad, you understand this better than most. Mike, you understand this. What is the behind the scenes? What is Rubio saying? What is the Secretary of the Treasury saying? What is the Chief of Staff saying on this Greenland thing? At what point do you go down that road a little? Is it just trying to change the narrative? I mean, sometimes we've seen President Trump do that very well. What is the thinking here if you're on the White House cabinet room?
Well, it's obviously in this administration, it's hard to know or even imagine what's going on as far as the thinking goes. I'm sure Marco Rubio is advising him well, and I will say I think Trump has actually done a decent job listening to Rubio. So if Rubio wasn't in favor of it, it wouldn't be happening. And there are plenty of members of Congress who want to move forward strategically on Greenland. And there are plenty of reasons to move forward with it strategically for the United States of America. But the fact is, Jack, back to your original point, he needs to pivot back to the economy because in January, we are just months away from a heated election.
Yeah.
And the American people don't want to talk about Greenland. They want
No.
to talk about why they're paying more for groceries.
And Brad Card actually said he thought it was stupid. But Brad, you made another good point there in the beginning. Brad Card, you and co-host of Contact Politics. By the way, we should get Denny here on some week, Brad. Brad, you said the big beautiful bill and what it means. But the administration, in all due respect, isn't talking about that, Brad. They're not talking about the tax breaks. They're not talking about what would have happened. They're not pointing out the merits of this. Why aren't they doing that, Brad?
That's a good question. I don't know. They should be. And they should be. I mean, look, the Republicans own that bill, and they have to pass it. They pass it with reconciliation, which means it's a Republican-only vote, quite frankly. And at the end of the day, you would be having a tax increase if Democrats were controlling Congress. That's a fact. So I don't get it. They should be talking about it. And if somebody said to me, look, I have no doubt that Greenland strategically could be very important and is an important place. But we have a treaty with Greenland to put military bases where we want them.
Right.
And I'm sure we could negotiate anything on the critical minerals as well. I don't understand this obsession, and it's not a popular issue with members of Congress. Marco Rubio's not dumb. He knows this isn't good to do with our allies.
And the other thing, Brad, the other thing, Brad and Mike, and I want you both finish on this, is what's the message? Now, you could say to China, to Beijing, and to Putin, it makes President Trump even more unpredictable, which actually might make our adversaries more nervous, including Tehran. But also, us flexing in Venezuela with oil, us flexing. Now, getting Maduro is a good thing. Us flexing with Greenland, us telling Cuba to do a deal with us. Doesn't China just say, hey, we can take Taiwan and they have no right telling us not to, or Putin can keep messing and killing in Ukraine because we're doing this in other places, or at least poking our nose into places. Isn't there a little bit of a hypocritical message there or not?
There is, as far as I'm concerned, there is. And it just doesn't make sense to me. And the president sending our allies letters saying that, maybe I shouldn't be so focused on peace in the world because he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, that's insanity. So they got to just stop the nonsense and focus, get the focus back where it should be.
Yep.
Stop this nonsense with Greenland. And if you want to negotiate treaties with Greenland, by all means do it. But this is just insane.
Mike, before I let you go, Brad Card, any word or inside track on fundraising in that U.S. Senate race? Either one of you hearing anything with Pappas, Sununu, Scott Brown, big Senate race, congressional, any big fundraising numbers where we should get some reports, I would think, in the next week or so?
Pappas announced 2.1 for the last quarter. Have not heard anything out of Brown or Sununu, and I expect Sununu's is going to be big.
Brad?
Yeah, I'm sure Sununu's going to have a monster number. I mean, he's been very aggressive, been raising a lot of money in Washington, D.C. as well. And the NRSC is all in with John E. Sununu right now. So I expect him to have a very big number.
What's a big number? Over 3 million?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he was over 3 million.
All right, both of you. Thank Brad Card, Mike Dennehy. Thank you both very much. It ended up being a good duo. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
All right, hey Alexa, hey Google, play the Pulse of an H. When we come back, Doug Tengden, World Market Advisors, the economy next.
News, information. Keith on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, we are back. And Doug Tengden, World Market Advisors, on a Tuesday, not a Monday. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Jack. How are you?
Good, thanks. WorldMarketAdvisors.com. I think that's the best and easiest way to get you, right?
That's correct. Thank you.
So, Doug, I think this morning I had a premise that does tie into the economy, and it's not overtly political, I don't think. I think despite all the distractions, the chaos, and all the stuff happening around the world and nationally, but here at home, I still think most people feel the cost of living is the number one headache in their life. I may be wrong. Different levels of income, obviously, maybe not as much, but the affordability, steak is still expensive if you get meat in the grocery store, utilities, mortgages, rent, cost of living. And I think that needs to be more of a focus of the current administration on an ongoing basis, even if they think they're doing great, because the president a year ago talked about the golden era is here. Am I right or wrong on that, despite wanting to buy Greenland or some of the other issues and whether U.S. oil companies want to continue to pay for upgrades in Venezuela? Is it affordability, cost of living, what you sense out there is a number one issue or not?
Yeah, I think so. Affordability is the key issue that's driving a lot of people's thinking. And the key to affordability is housing. It's not just the cost of housing. You pointed to it, Jack. It's the cost of utilities, whether it's electricity or the cable or insurance or taxes, local real estate taxes. It all filters into the cost of shelter, and the cost of shelter is just too high as a percentage of people's income. But that's the other side of the equation, is the income side, and we've got an employment market employment situation which has deteriorated dramatically over the last 12 months. All
right. So we're what are we looking at? We haven't talked about this in a little bit. I don't want to get into the let's just say the battle with the Fed and the Fed chair, Powell, and Justice and all that department, but interest rates, because that's another thing that's interesting.
Yeah.
Interest rates, you look at it bank to bank. You look at the core interest rate. Most people listening want to know, in March, if I sell my house, I'm going to buy a new home. What is my fixed 15 or 30-year mortgage rate? Or if I borrow money to get a new vehicle, what is my consumer mortgage rate? And right now, we had two adjustments before the end of the year down. I think it would total for 0.5 percentage point. And by, let's just say by April, are we going to see more reduction in the next 6 months in interest rates, or are they going to stay where they are for a while?
Oh, I think we're going to see more reduction, but that's not good news. I mean, a year ago, mortgages were at 7%. Now they're at 6.2%. But they're at 6.2 because inflation is the dog that didn't bark. There's been no inflation over the last 12 months. And in fact, it's looking like prices are starting to break down. That's because the economy's weak, not because the Fed has suddenly realized that they were wrong. So just to go back to employment, over the last 12 months, you realize we've only created 50,000 jobs a month for the last 12 months. Over the last 6 months, it's only 14,000 jobs in the entire economy. Over the last 3 months, we've actually shrunk the job market. So that's where, when I say the employment market is the other side of this affordability thing, if the administration is able to get oil prices lower because of invading Venezuela, that's great. But if you don't have a job, you're not going to be able to afford anything.
Yeah.
So that's really the aspect that's very concerning.
All right, Doug, worldmarketadvisors.com. Thank you, Doug.
Jack, you have a great week.
All right. I believe it's next week. We're going to hear from John Stebbins. He's the CEO of Procon. Procon is one of New England's top building companies or corporations, Procon Development, and they're an amazing company, but they really have a priority to provide more affordable housing. They really do. And they're one of our great prime sponsors for our affordable housing discussions. We're going to hear from John because they are putting their effort and their talent where their mouth is, if you will. They are doing affordable housing apartments in places, I believe, like Rochester and other communities. And, Doug, who was just on, Doug Tengden, lives in the beautiful hamlet of Hanover, New Hampshire. He never drifted far from Dartmouth, where he went to college. And I love Doug, but my point is, they say in these communities, oh, we need more affordable housing, but then they have like a 7-acre minimum for a new home. They don't want it in their backyard. So we're going to hear more from affordable housing, our friends at Procon. Also, seacoastdirt.com. Check it out for builders, developers, and realtors and home buyers. Learn about the contractors out there, seacoastdirt.com. All only just for builders and realtors and developers. And if you want to advertise on this show and you're in the trades, give us a call, 603-228-2080. Our great friends at New Hampshire Technical Institute, bringing back the trades, our building community. We had Matt Mayberry on the show Friday from the New Hampshire Home Builders, talking about their great work. But so many of you are in the trades and the building industry, and I love it. I think it's great and a big part of the show, so we want you to be a bigger part of the show. So stay with us, ride with us, learn from us, and tell us about your wares. Tell us what you do. And there's so much happening. Tomorrow, we're going to hear from Bob Jackman, LaValle Middleton Building Supply, speaking of our trades. And Bob's going to talk tomorrow, I believe, J-Dog, on home safety, one of our great partners and sponsors here at The Pulse. Tomorrow, actually, I'll tell you, J-Dog, instead of speculating, Doug's going to be weighing in on...
Bob, not Doug.
Bob. I'm sorry, Doug was just on. But I'm just reading his notes, that's why. Snow and ice. And buying homes with friends concept. So tomorrow we're going to talk about snow and ice issues, that time of year. I don't know if you've seen the forecast. We like to talk about that here in New England. This weekend, it's going to get real cold. In the next half hour, Mike Cody's going to be talking about the Old Farmer's Almanac. But for real, you're going to see about a 30 or 40 temperature drop by Friday. Friday night, we're well into the negative, and Saturday. So very cold over the weekend. I think it's some of the coldest weather we've seen this winter yet. And, of course, it's been a real New England winter, has it not? A real New England winter as I look out and I see the beautiful snow from the weekend, or at least the snow if you appreciate the trees and the purity of all this, and if you're not hopping on a plane to Florida. But this weekend's getting real cold. So Bob Jackman's going to talk about ice and snow with your home tomorrow in his regular spot and the 10:30 spot, I believe. Bob's tomorrow is 9:30? 9:30. All right. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google. Play the Pulse of Nature. Top of the 10 o'clock. Coming up next.